The spring sun filtered through the university's stained-glass windows as Diana clutched her master's degree in business administration. Her silk graduation gown rustled as she posed for photos, surrounded by family and friends who had gathered to celebrate her achievement. At 32, she had spent 3 grueling years balancing coursework with her marketing career, and today marked her transformation into someone new, someone she believed had finally reached her full potential. Her husband, Owen, stood at the edge of the crowd, holding her bouquet of congratulatory flowers. His rumpled jacket and tired eyes spoke of another late night at his small tech consulting firm, the modest venture he'd been nursing along for the past 7 years. While Diana had been climbing academic and corporate ladders, Owen had remained stubbornly committed to his little project, as her mother dismissively called it. "Owen, we need to talk," Diana said as they walked to the parking lot, her heels clicking against the pavement with newfound confidence. He smiled warmly, juggling the flowers and her academic regalia. "Of course. I was thinking we could celebrate at that Italian place you love. I want a divorce." The flowers slipped from his hands, scattering across the asphalt. Owen's face went pale as he bent to retrieve them, his movements mechanical. "What? Diana, is this a joke?" She pulled an envelope from her designer handbag, a graduation gift she'd bought herself. "I've already filed the paperwork. My lawyer says it should be straightforward since we kept our finances separate and have no children." "But, why? We've been married for 8 years. I thought we were happy." Diana sighed, as if explaining something painfully obvious to a child. "Owen, I've grown. These past 3 years have shown me what I'm capable of. I've been promoted twice, I have my master's degree now, and I'm networking with executives at Fortune 500 companies. Meanwhile, you're still tinkering with the same small-time consulting business, taking calls at midnight from clients who probably pay you in coffee mugs." "My work is building toward something," he said quietly. "You know that." "Building toward what?" "We live in a rental apartment while my colleagues are buying houses. I drive a 7-year-old sedan while they're leasing luxury cars. I've outgrown this life, Owen. I've outgrown us." Her mother appeared, linking arms with Diana. "Sweetheart, we should get to the restaurant. Your father made reservations for 20 people." Owen stood frozen, still holding the crushed flowers. "You planned a celebration knowing you were going to do this. Life moves forward, Owen. I suggest you do the same." Diana turned away, her graduation gown billowing behind her like a victory banner. That night, Owen sat alone in their apartment, soon to be just his apartment, staring at the framed photos documenting their life together. College sweethearts who'd eloped in a simple courthouse ceremony. Their first apartment, barely larger than a closet. Diana's face, radiant with joy on mornings when ambition hadn't yet consumed her. His phone buzzed. A message from his business partner, Vincent. "The Dubai investors want to move forward. Conference call Monday at 6 a.m. This is it, Owen. Everything we've worked for." Owen set the phone down and looked around the modest apartment. For 3 years, he'd been secretly negotiating a deal to sell the proprietary software his firm had developed, a revolutionary data security platform that major corporations and governments desperately needed. The negotiations had required absolute discretion. The potential buyers insisted on complete confidentiality until contracts were signed. He had planned to surprise Diana after graduation, to show her that his little project had been worth the sacrifice. The preliminary figures suggested a deal worth approximately $500 million. Now, none of it mattered. Owen picked up the divorce papers and began to read. 3 months had passed since Diana's graduation, and she was living her best life, or so she told everyone. Her social media overflowed with photos, networking events at rooftop bars, weekend getaways with her new circle of MBA friends, motivational quotes about choosing yourself and releasing dead weight. She'd moved into a sleek downtown loft, splitting the rent with her friend Cassidy, a corporate lawyer with connections throughout the city's business elite. The divorce had been finalized with surprising speed. Owen hadn't contested anything, hadn't asked for her retirement contributions or any portion of her increased salary. He'd simply signed the papers and moved his belongings to a small house outside the city. "You seem distracted," Cassidy observed one evening as they prepared for another networking mixer. "Having second thoughts?" "About Owen?" God, no. Diana applied her lipstick with practiced precision. I'm just thinking about the promotion. If I land this director position, I'll be making $180,000 a year. At 32. That's triple what I made when I started my master's program. And what was Owen making? Diana paused. I honestly don't know. He was always vague about the consulting firm's revenue. Maybe $80,000? He lived modestly enough. Cassidy scrolled through her phone. Funny you should mention consulting firms. There's a rumor circulating in the tech sector about a major acquisition. Some small cybersecurity company got bought out by an international consortium. The founder supposedly walked away with an insane amount of money. Good for him, Diana said dismissively. That's the kind of ambition Owen never had. What Diana didn't know was that Owen's life had transformed into a carefully orchestrated whirlwind of conference rooms, legal teams, and international wire transfers. The deal had closed 6 weeks after their divorce was finalized. TechVault Solutions, the company Owen had built from his tiny home office, had been acquired for $547 million by a consortium of investors from Dubai, Singapore, and Frankfurt. Owen's share, as majority owner, came to approximately $420 million after taxes and distributions to Vincent and their small team of developers. He sat in his modest rental house, surrounded by bankers' boxes and legal documents, feeling nothing. The money meant nothing without someone to share it with. He'd built TechVault thinking about the future, their future. A home where Diana wouldn't feel embarrassed to host parties. Travel to all the places she'd bookmarked in her travel magazine collection. Security, freedom, possibilities. Vincent had tried to celebrate, insisting they at least upgrade their offices and hire a proper staff. Owen, you're worth nearly $500 million. You're eating microwave dinners in a rental house with furniture from college. This is insane. What would you have me do? Buy a mansion? A yacht? Flash money around while my ex-wife thinks I was a failure? You could tell her the truth. Owen shook his head. She made her choice based on who she thought I was. Telling her now would only prove that she was right to value money above everything else. Besides, the confidentiality agreement prohibited disclosure until after the deal closed. By then, she'd already left. His lawyer, an elderly gentleman named Bernard, had different advice. You owe her nothing, legally or morally. The marriage was dissolved, the assets divided according to your prenuptial agreement. She walked away during the most critical period of your professional life. Some might call that poetic justice. But Owen didn't feel victorious. He felt hollow. Meanwhile, Diana's director promotion had hit a snag. The position went to an internal candidate with more years at the company. She'd been offered a senior manager role instead, still impressive, but not the leap she'd envisioned. Her salary increase was modest, $15,000 annually. At least I'm not held back anymore, she told herself, sipping wine alone in her loft while Cassidy worked late. Owen would have just been deadweight at the company events. Imagine bringing him to the executive gala. She looked at her reflection in the darkened window, seeing a successful woman in designer clothes, living in a fashionable neighborhood, unencumbered by a husband who lacked ambition. She did not see the doubt beginning to creep into her eyes. Diana first heard the rumors during a corporate breakfast meeting. She was representing her marketing firm at an industry conference when the conversation at her table turned to recent success stories in the tech sector. Did you hear about TechVault Solutions? Asked Gregory, a venture capitalist who specialized in cybersecurity investments. Absolute Cinderella story. Some quiet guy runs a consulting firm out of practically nowhere, develops this revolutionary encryption platform, and sells it for over $500 million to international investors. Diana's coffee cup stopped halfway to her lips. TechVault Solutions. Yeah, the company was based about 40 minutes from here. The founder's name was Owen something. Owen Hartley. Kept everything under wraps for years while he developed the technology and negotiated with buyers. The confidentiality agreements were ironclad. Nobody knew the deal was happening until it closed. The room tilted slightly. Diana set down her cup with a trembling hand. Owen Hartley. You know him. Gregory leaned forward with interest. We were married. We divorced 6 months ago. The table went quiet. Gregory's expression shifted from curious to uncomfortable. Oh. Well. That's timing. Cassidy, who had accompanied Diana to the conference, placed a steadying hand on her arm. Diana, breathe. When exactly did the deal close? Diana pulled out her phone with shaking fingers, searching for news articles. There it was, dated 8 weeks after their divorce was finalized. Local tech firm TechVault Solutions acquired an historic $547 million deal. The article featured a photo of Owen, wearing an actual suit instead of his usual rumpled jacket, shaking hands with executives in what appeared to be a Dubai boardroom. The article detailed how he'd spent 5 years developing proprietary security software and 3 years in secret negotiations with international investors. 3 years. The same 3 years she'd spent earning her MBA. The same 3 years she'd dismissed his work as a dead-end hobby. I need air, Diana whispered, standing abruptly. She barely made it to the conference center's terrace before the full weight of realization crashed over her. Owen hadn't been stagnant. He'd been building an empire in silence. Those midnight calls weren't from small-time clients, they were from investors in different time zones. Those tinkering sessions in his home office were development marathons on software that would eventually sell for more money than Diana could earn in 10 lifetimes. And she had served him divorce papers on her graduation day, believing she had outgrown him. Cassidy found her 30 minutes later, still gripping the terrace railing. Diana, I pulled up everything I could find. The deal was confidential due to the sensitive nature of the technology, government security applications, banking systems, that kind of thing. Owen couldn't tell anyone, probably not even you. The articles say he lived modestly to avoid attention and reinvested everything into development. I called him deadweight, Diana said numbly. I told him I'd outgrown our life together. I filed for divorce because I thought he lacked ambition. You couldn't have known. I should have trusted him. 8 years of marriage, and I didn't trust that he knew what he was doing. I valued appearances over substance. I chose a potential $15,000 raise over the man who loved me. The next week was torture. Diana couldn't focus at work, couldn't sleep, couldn't stop searching for information about Owen's new life. The articles were sparse. Owen had clearly maintained his preference for privacy, but what little existed painted the picture of a man who had achieved everything quietly, without fanfare or ego. She drove past their old apartment one evening, remembering the life they'd shared there. Simple dinners at the kitchen counter. Weekend mornings when they'd split the newspaper and argue playfully about which sections were most interesting. The way Owen would listen to her work frustrations for hours, offering insights that, she now realized, came from a brilliant analytical mind. She'd thrown all of that away for status symbols and networking events with people she barely liked. Her mother called, having heard the news through the family grapevine. Diana, sweetheart, you couldn't have known. How could anyone have predicted? You called his work a little project, Mom. You encouraged me to leave him because he wasn't flashy enough for your country club friends. I listened to you instead of trusting my own husband. Well, perhaps you could reconcile? Explain that you made a mistake. Diana laughed bitterly. You think this is about the money? I don't want Owen back because he's rich. I want him back because I finally understand who he really was, and I'm devastated by who I became. Diana stood outside the address she'd found for Owen's new residence, her heart hammering against her ribs. It wasn't the mansion she'd expected. Instead, she found herself in front of a modest craftsman-style home in a quiet neighborhood, larger than their old apartment but far from ostentatious. The garden was well maintained, with flowers she recognized as Owen's favorites, simple daisies and lavender. She'd rehearsed this conversation 100 times during the 3 weeks since the discovery. Apologies, explanations, pleas for a second chance. Now, standing at his door, all her prepared words dissolved into anxiety. Owen answered on the second knock. He looked different, rested, perhaps, with better posture and clothes that actually fit properly. But his eyes, those kind brown eyes she'd fallen in love with in college, grew guarded the moment he recognized her. Diana. Hi. Can we talk? He hesitated, then stepped aside. The interior was sparsely furnished but comfortable. No artwork boasting of wealth, no luxury items on display. Books lined the shelves, technical manuals, philosophy texts, the science fiction novels he'd always loved. It looked like Owen, just a slightly more stable version. "I know about Tech Vault," Diana said, unable to manage small talk. "About the deal. About everything." Owen settled into an armchair, not inviting her to sit. "I assumed you'd hear eventually. It's a small professional world. Why didn't you tell me? During the marriage, why didn't you say something?" "I signed confidentiality agreements, Diana. The investors required absolute discretion. The technology we developed had implications for national security, financial systems, infrastructure protection. One leak could have killed the deal or, worse, put the technology in the wrong hands." "But I was your wife." "Yes, you were." His voice remained calm, but she heard the edge of pain beneath it. "And I wanted to tell you every single day. I wanted to share the excitement when we hit development milestones, when the investors increased their offers, when we finally got confirmation that years of work were about to pay off. But I couldn't risk it, not even with you." Diana sank onto the couch uninvited, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Owen. I'm so incredibly sorry. I was arrogant and shallow, and I threw away everything that mattered because I couldn't see past my own ego. I appreciate the apology." "Is that all? Don't you want to yell at me? Tell me how much I hurt you. Tell me I'm a terrible person who deserves to suffer." Owen leaned forward, his expression softening slightly. "Diana, you're not a terrible person. You're someone who got caught up in external validation and made a painful mistake. We all have the capacity for that. I don't want your forgiveness to be this easy. I want you to be angry." "I was angry," he admitted. "For months, I was furious. You ended our marriage on the day you graduated, surrounded by people celebrating you, while I stood there holding flowers like an idiot. You called me deadweight. You said you'd outgrown me. Do you know how that felt? To know I was weeks away from proving that your faith in me, had you still had any, would have been justified. Then why are you so calm now?" "Because I've had time to process it. And because staying angry at you would mean you still had power over my peace." He paused. "The money changed my circumstances, Diana, but it also gave me clarity. I realized that our marriage had problems deeper than you knew. I was so consumed with the project, so focused on this future I was building, that I stopped communicating with you about anything real. I became closed off, secretive, distant. I told myself it was necessary for the deal, but the truth is, I chose the work over nurturing our relationship." Diana wiped her eyes. "Don't make excuses for me. I'm the one who gave up. We both gave up, just at different times. You gave up on us explicitly. I gave up on us gradually, prioritizing a business deal over my marriage for 3 years." He met her eyes directly. "I'm sorry too, Diana. I'm sorry I wasn't honest about how all-consuming the project had become. I'm sorry I let you feel alone in our marriage while I chased this dream." The apology, unexpected and generous, broke something in Diana. She sobbed openly, mourning not just the marriage but the people they'd been before ambition and pride had corrupted everything good between them. When her tears finally subsided, Owen handed her a box of tissues. "Why did you come here, Diana? What were you hoping to find?" "Honestly, I don't know. Part of me hoped you'd take me back, that we could start over now that I understand what really matters. But I know that's selfish and unrealistic. Mostly, I just needed you to know that I'm sorry, and that losing you was the biggest mistake of my life." Owen stood and walked to the window, gazing out at his simple garden. "I appreciate you saying that. I do. But we can't go back, Diana. Too much has changed, and not just the money. We're different people now." "I know," she whispered. "I just wish I'd realized what I had before I destroyed it." He turned to face her. "For what it's worth, I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're human. We all make decisions we regret. The question is what we learn from them. What did you learn? She asked. That success means nothing without people to share it with. That money can't buy back time or trust. That I want to be with someone who values me for who I am, not what I can provide, whether that's status or security or anything else. He smiled sadly. Ironically, the same lessons you're learning now. Diana stood, recognizing that this conversation had reached its natural end. Will you be happy, Owen? After everything? I'm working on it. I've been reconnecting with old friends, pursuing hobbies I'd abandoned, volunteering. I'm learning who I am outside of work and marriage. It's strange, starting over at 35, but also liberating. She nodded, fresh tears threatening. I hope you find someone who deserves you. Someone who sees your worth even when you're eating microwave dinners in a rental house. I hope you find peace with your choices, Diana. Real peace, not just the appearance of it. She left without looking back, knowing that if she did, she might collapse entirely. As she drove away from Owen's modest, peaceful home, Diana understood that this was the true cost of her arrogance. Not financial loss, but the irretrievable loss of a good man's love and trust. 1 year later, Diana sat in a coffee shop, reviewing a proposal for her own small marketing consultancy. She'd left the corporate firm 6 months earlier, realizing that the ladder she'd been climbing led nowhere she actually wanted to go. The decision had baffled her mother and disappointed her MBA network, but for the first time in years, Diana felt like she was making choices based on her own values rather than external validation. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Tech philanthropist Owen Hartley donates $50 million to education initiatives. She clicked the article, reading about Owen's new foundation focused on providing technology education and resources to underfunded schools. The photo showed him at a school opening, surrounded by students, his smile genuine and unguarded. That's a good look on him, said a voice. Diana looked up to find Cassidy sliding into the opposite chair, 2 coffees in hand. He seems happy, Diana acknowledged, accepting the coffee. Really happy, not just performing happiness for social media. And you? Are you happy? Diana considered the question. I'm getting there. Some days are harder than others. I still think about what I lost, what I threw away. But I'm learning to sit with those feelings instead of running from them or covering them up with achievements and acquisitions. That's growth, Cassidy said gently. She'd been Diana's most consistent supporter through the aftermath, never judging, always listening. I saw my therapist yesterday, Diana continued. We talked about how I'd based my entire self-worth on external accomplishments. The degrees, the promotions, the image I projected. I'd convinced myself that love and partnership were things you outgrow when you become successful, rather than recognizing them as success in themselves. Heavy stuff. Yeah, but necessary. Diana stirred her coffee absently. I ran into Vincent last month, Owen's business partner. He told me Owen is dating someone. A teacher he met through the foundation work. She apparently has no idea he's wealthy, thinks he just works for a non-profit. Cassidy winced sympathetically. How did that feel? Like a knife to the chest, Diana admitted. But also, right? Owen deserves someone who loves him for who he is. Someone who won't bail when things look uncertain. I hope she's good to him. I hope she sees what I was too blind to appreciate. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Outside, the city moved at its frenetic pace, people rushing toward their next meeting, their next milestone, their next achievement. I got a call from my father yesterday, Diana said. He wanted to know if I was still wasting time with the consultancy or if I was ready to get serious about my career again. As if building something meaningful on my own terms isn't serious. What did you tell him? I told him I was exactly where I needed to be. And then I hung up before he could argue. Diana smiled. Small victories. Her consultancy was modest but growing. She specialized in helping small businesses develop authentic marketing strategies, focusing on substance over flash. The irony wasn't lost on her, using the MBA she'd once thought made her superior to Owen to help people who reminded her of him. People building something real, quietly, without the need for constant external validation. The money wasn't impressive by corporate standards, but it was enough. More importantly, the work felt meaningful. She'd recently helped a family-owned bakery triple their customer base through honest storytelling and community engagement. Their gratitude had meant more than any corporate promotion ever could. "Have you thought about reaching out to Owen again?" Cassidy asked carefully. Diana shook her head. "What would I say? Congratulations on finding happiness after I destroyed ours. He's moved on, and he should have. My job now isn't to win him back or make him forgive me. It's to become someone I can respect, someone who wouldn't make the same mistakes again." "Do you think you'll ever stop loving him?" The question hung in the air. Diana looked out the window at the busy street, watching strangers pass by, each carrying their own regrets and lessons. "Honestly, probably not. Owen was my first love, my best friend, my partner for 8 years. You don't just stop loving someone like that, even when you've hurt them beyond repair. But I'm learning to love him differently now, by respecting his choices, by wishing him well from a distance, by not making my regret his problem to solve." Cassidy nodded approvingly. "That's mature." "It's survival," Diana corrected. "The alternative is drowning in guilt and self-pity, and I've wasted enough time on self-centered emotions." Her phone buzzed again. A potential client wanting to discuss their organic farming cooperative's marketing strategy. Diana smiled, typing a response to schedule a meeting. "I need to go," she said, gathering her things. "Meeting with a new client. They're doing interesting work with sustainable agriculture and want to reach consumers who care about more than just price." "Look at you, believing in substance over flash," Cassidy teased. "Better late than never, right?" As Diana walked to her car, she passed a billboard advertising MBA programs with the tagline "Elevate Yourself." She used to see those ads as aspirational, as invitations to become someone better, more impressive, more worthy. Now she saw them for what they were, promises that external achievements could fill internal voids. She thought about Owen, probably at his foundation office or visiting schools, building something meaningful with his resources. She thought about the teacher he was dating, whoever she was, and genuinely hoped she appreciated the man Diana had been too foolish to value. And she thought about herself, not the Diana who'd served divorce papers on her graduation day, drunk on arrogance and ambition, but the Diana she was slowly becoming. Someone who understood that growth wasn't about outgrowing people but about growing alongside them. Someone who measured success not in salary or status but in integrity and impact. The road ahead was uncertain. She might never achieve the corporate heights she'd once craved. She might never match Owen's financial success or repair the damage she'd caused. But she was building something real now, something that couldn't be taken away by market forces or bad timing or anyone else's opinion. She was building a self she could live with. That evening, Diana sat at her desk in her small home office, no longer the trendy downtown loft but a quiet apartment that felt like home, and drafted a letter she would never send. "Dear Owen, I know I have no right to your time or attention, so I won't burden you with this letter. But I needed to write it anyway, even if only for myself. Thank you for showing me what true integrity looks like. Thank you for building something meaningful even when no one was watching or applauding. Thank you for your quiet strength, your patient persistence, your unshakable belief that good work speaks for itself. Thank you also for your grace in the face of my betrayal. You could have been cruel or vindictive, could have made sure I knew exactly what I'd lost. Instead, you've moved forward with dignity, building a life focused on giving rather than taking. I'm not writing to ask for anything. I just wanted you to know that losing you taught me more about myself than any degree or promotion ever could. You taught me the difference between achievement and worth, between image and substance, between what impresses others and what actually matters. I hope you're happy, truly happy, in a way I never let you be with me. I hope your foundation changes thousands of lives. I hope the person you're with now sees you the way I should have, as someone extraordinary exactly as you are. And I hope, someday, I can build a life that honors the lessons you taught me, even though I learned them far too late to save us. With love and regret. Diana. She folded the letter and placed it in a drawer with other unsent apologies and acknowledgements. Some words needed to be written but not delivered. Some confessions were meant only to clarify the confessor's own heart. Diana turned off her desk lamp and looked out at the city lights, at all the people out there chasing their own definitions of success, making their own mistakes, learning their own painful lessons. She hoped they'd figure it out faster than she had. She hoped they wouldn't have to lose something irreplaceable to understand what actually mattered. But mostly, she hoped she could forgive herself someday, the way Owen already seemed to have done. Tomorrow, she would keep building her consultancy, keep helping people tell authentic stories, keep growing into someone worthy of the love she'd squandered. The work would be slow and unglamorous, nothing like the rapid climb up corporate ladders she'd once craved. But it would be real. And after everything, real was all that mattered.